I'm Jody Avergan. Have you heard of Blue Apron? Well, now you have. Blue Apron's mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone. The country's #1 fresh ingredient and recipe service, fresh, high-quality ingredients make the difference, so it's important to know where your food comes from. Plus, it's affordable, easy, and full of surprises. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free with free shipping. You will love how good it tastes and feels to create home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. Go to blueapron.com/30 for 30.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me a boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, Del?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in, center stage on the mic.
We're Jalen and Jacoby. What do?
We give the people what they want.
I love this part of my day because we do the television show now. We've got a few more days doing the television show, and this is when we get to relax and just speak to our podcast audience the way we used to. You know, before we sold out, we can just sit back, relax. There's no topic bars. There's no B-roll we have to worry about. Just us chopping up about topics they probably wouldn't let us talk about on the television show, like this. There was a press conference this morning. There have been more people, 2 women and a man, coming out to sue Usher Raymond.
Wow.
To get more money from Usher because they claim they have had sexual contact with Mr. Raymond and he did not notify them about his pre-existing herpes condition. Is this a money grab, Jalen?
This is something that has you trending for all of the wrong reasons when you're Usher. It's truly unfortunate that this situation has continued to endure because these scenarios that are being described, I don't think happened recently. They probably took place years ago.
Yep.
So for them to continue to be something now for public consumption has me wanting to believe it's a money grab. But if you're the person, however, that came across somebody that had an STD and they did not share that with you.
And they gave you the STD.
And they gave you the STD. You can't be mad at that individual. There's no statute of limitations if you give me something.
I think there is. I mean, here's the thing is, but one thing that kind of makes me curious about this is of these 3 people that are now suing Usher, only one of them is infected with this. So it's like, so there's 2 people that are saying, well, he didn't notify me and I'm suing for psychological damages because now I'm thinking about it. Like, I don't really understand. And also, this opens up a weird door because I know that Usher's been married a couple times. I'm just going to go out on a limb. This is just me just sort of guessing. Something tells me that he's perhaps had sexual relations with a lot of people over the last 10 years. You know, I'm just throwing that out there. Who knows? I don't know what Usher Raymond's real personal life is like. But if now we've got this thing where every single person that has had sexual relations with Usher Raymond can come out and hire a lawyer and have a press conference and have it be a news story on TMZ. This is not great for Usher. This is not great for Usher.
I think this is going to become a different version, and again, I stress, a different version of what we see happening with Bill Cosby.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because for Usher Raymond, who's been a successful individual for so many years, and with having an STD, and as you mentioned, being married, plus being a celebrity, and doing all of the things that come with enjoying the fruits of his labor, literally. Now, these relationships are going to continue to pop up, and it won't look good for him at all.
Of course, later on during the show, we'll be talking about CP3 and James Harden arguing at the Drew League. Doc Rivers no longer being the general manager. We're going to get to some McGregor-Mayweather updates, but celebrate Usain Bolt. But right now, during the exclusive-only podcast version of the show, we're going to hit on some other topics that we couldn't really get to in the television show like this one. Jalen Rose, I know you saw this on the ticker. I know you feel a certain way about it. A gentleman by the name of Jalen Collins has been suspended for 10 games by the NFL. He was suspended for 4 games last year, 10 games this year for PEDs. Jalen, what's up with this, Jalen?
We got to have a meeting of the Jalens.
You need to have a Jalen summit or something. You really do. You really, because sometimes it's such an honor to have people carry your name, and then sometimes they're sullying your name.
Because when you see it trending, you like want to make sure Rose ain't behind it first off. I'm like, okay, cool. That's number one. But two, in all honesty, football is a sport, and I say this respectfully to the health of the players, and I'm a huge fan of the game. We don't care that players use PEDs.
Oh, that's an interesting take. We kind of don't. Like, it's kind of like the WWE. Like, we kind of understand that there may be some PED use going on, but we're not really like, it's not like baseball where someone hits a bunch of home runs and we're all starting to point fingers and you put asterisks next to things. But like in the NFL, if you get caught, we're like, oh, he got caught, whatever, he'll be back. When's he back? Oh, okay. No big deal.
We don't care.
Yeah, it's interesting.
If you went up to any football fan and asked them to list you multiple players that have been suspended for PEDs, they won't remember.
Yeah, they probably won't. And it's like, and we all kind of like just turned a blind eye to something that we pull the wool over our own eyes when it comes to PED use in the NFL. Because something tells me some of our favorite players, some of those legendary big hitters, some of those defensive players that we hold on such high esteem, perhaps maybe weren't the cleanest athletes that we've ever seen in the history of sport.
And also, we give them a pass as fans because they're doing something I personally am scared to do.
Absolutely.
That's run into somebody as fast as I can and hit them as hard as I can multiple times until the ball is down.
So I'm glad you can go there because, you know, I'm a fan. I never played professional sports in any way, shape, or form. But there is something for me as a regular dude watching sports. There's like, you watch a baseball player, you're like, I could sort of see myself living that life and doing that. You feel the same way about an NBA basketball player. Like, they're not so far removed from me. Like, that is a lifestyle that I would love to have. When it comes to boxers and when it comes to football players, there is this just sort of alien thing to it, whereas like I cannot even hypothetically fantasize about what that life would be like or what it would be like to perform that as a profession. And even you feel that way, someone who played in the NBA for 27 years on 7,000 different teams.
And you left off MMA. That's continued to get more and more popular. Mm-hmm. I got another one for you. Speed racing.
Oh yeah, good point. That's dangerous.
That gets overlooked in this dynamic. We talk about like a football player possibly having a concussion, and yet
we say it's like crashing into we say it's like getting a car crash. It's like guess what else is like a car crash? Car crashes. You know what? And you have car crashes at 45 miles an hour. These guys have car crashes at 200 miles an hour. And another thing about a car crash in real life and in sport, it's not always your fault. You know, you could just be doing your regular thing, driving down the track, and all of a sudden there's a pileup in front of you, and now you have to avoid it, and you end up smashing into something. You ruin your $100,000 vehicle, and you injure yourself. Jalen, do you remember Martin Shkreli? Probably don't. He's known as the Pharma Bro. He's like this guy. He was a rich hedge fund guy. He bought a pharmaceutical company, and then he jacked up the price of a drug that fought HIV. He's like a real life like villain. He's a true villain. He bought the Wu-Tang CD. And he was talking with Ghostface.
Yes.
So he bought that Wu-Tang CD. He's now been sentenced to some time for securities fraud on like one of his various hedge funds. Hedge funds might not always be the cleanest way to make money. Just throwing that out there. I'm not sure every single hedge fund is being run by the most up and up individuals. I'm not saying all of them, but there are some hedge funds that may be dealing in some shady business. Just maybe.
And I'm also disappointed in the fact that white collar crimes definitely don't get the punishment that we see. Even in particular, drug cases, that parody continues to play itself out, and I like to call that cultural.
Okay. Well, he's going to jail, and now he's starting to play some of the Wu-Tang songs. This guy, something tells me he's going to have a difficult time in jail. That's all I have to say. And I don't even, you know what? As much as I love Wu-Tang, I don't want to hear him this way. I don't want Martin Shkreli to be my plug for new Wu-Tang songs.
No,
I'm not even going to watch that.
I'm
not searching for it or anything. If the Wu-Tang wants me to hear this music, they wouldn't have sold it to some dude who's named the Pharma Bro, okay? If you call 985-80 Jalen, you can leave his voicemails, and we'll play him on the show like this.
What's going on, guys? This is Blake, and I have a question for Jalen that will force him to channel Fat Jalen for the answer. If you could only eat at one fast food restaurant for the rest of your life, would it be Waffle House or Popeye's Chicken? Because I'm pretty sure those are your two favorites. Get back at me. and keep giving the people what they want.
Thanks for the love. Appreciate the call. Growing up on the west side of Detroit, literally I could throw a rock at a Popeyes. So just eating a 2-piece and a biscuit, extra crispy, that was all day. Don't even have to think twice.
Not a lot of Popeyes in Western Massachusetts when I was growing up.
This question has an easy answer.
No Waffle
House.
Waffle House is the best. I don't even consider that a fast food restaurant. That is a fine dining experience.
No question. No doubt.
Yeah.
Waffle House is a fine dining, like you said. That's like your favorite, high class. I need to start dressing up wearing blazers, shirts, and ties to go there.
You know those fancy restaurants that's open kitchen? You can see them work in the kitchen right in front of you? That's the Waffle House, basically.
Yes.
That's basically they basically just went to the Waffle House one day and were like, oh, let's make this a fine dining experience. Waffle House is excellent. However, if you go to the Waffle House after 2 a.m., you will see some things. You will see some things. Some good things, some bad things, and all things that you will never be able to unsee when you are at the late night Waffle House. Great way to set yourself up for a better morning, though. Fill the stomach, get a bunch of waters in. It'll make you feel better the next day for a late night Waffle House. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us voicemails, and we'll play them on the show just like this.
What up, though? Or should I say what's happening from the NO? 4 things rapid fire. Number 1, shout out to Jalen. My 6-year-old son is named Jalen. Shout out to Jacoby. I went to my junior and my senior prom in the minivan. Number 3, do-rag should be worn flap down at the crib, flap up in public. Number 4, the Jazz were originally from New Orleans. That's what the Jazz is. New Orleans Jazz. Check out the uniforms. Mardi Gras colors. Keep getting them checked, and please give me what I want.
Great call. I mean, we're going to address all of those things. Number 1, I did get a lot of tweets about the Jazz. I think the Utah Jazz is a terrible name. I understand the history of the franchise. It's not new to me that the Jazz are from New Orleans. Of course, I know the Jazz are from New Orleans. But when you move the team from New Orleans to Utah, you have an opportunity to rebrand it as not the Jazz because Utah is not exactly a hotbed for Jazz movement. I know there are some great Jazz musicians in Utah right now. I'm sure they exist, but it's not exactly what they are known for. I would go with the Utah Yetis. It's got a nice, Utah Yetis. It's like a snow monster. There's a lot of snow up there. Utah Yetis would be much better than Utah Jazz, and I put 0 time thinking of that. I literally just thought of that right now. Secondly, Jalen, let's address the do-rag flap. He says flap down at the crib, up in public.
I mean, I again, because I'm now trying to rock one, I'm learning as well.
I'm learning too. I'm not a big do-rag guy. I don't know if you guys know this, but I don't wear a lot of do-rags. But let me tell you something from an objective, just do-rag observer, not do-rag participant. It's not like if I see someone with the flap up, I'm like, oh, they're overdressed. Like they're ready for business. You know what I mean? It's not like the flap up or the flap down really changes my perspective on the do-rag attire that much. Let's be honest.
And the bottom line is, I would think that it's the opposite because, like I said, I don't want to fall asleep with the flap down because I don't want to choke myself.
Jalen, you keep saying that, and every time you say that, I just wonder what I don't know. What do you thrash around when you sleep? Do you tie things around your neck? It's a soft piece of cloth. It is not going to, as much as your bed sheets are going to choke you, the do-rag flap is going to choke you. But I'll let you live in that fantasy. Also, let's just recognize. He went to junior prom and senior prom in a minivan. Shout out to him. Because you can fit 6 people in there. You got to split couples. My senior prom, quote-unquote, limousine was just like an old Ford that was broken down. The seats were they're facing each other. It was the worst. I think we each paid like $10 a piece. I'm surprised our dates even got in that thing.
Oh, you was really on your Run DMC. I drive a caddy, you fixing a Ford.
And big shout to his 6-year-old son named Jalen.
That's much love. That's one of the most humbling things that I ever hear as I scour the globe. I appreciate having namesakes. That's really humbling.
Now, one thing I want to say is, ladies,
we got to send them a shirt.
Voicemails.
Send Jalen something.
Shout out.
Ladies, leave us voicemails. 985-80-JALEN. Every Wednesday, we do only female callers. So, ladies, leave us voicemails. Or, as you always do, fellas, just make your girlfriends call. And we all know when it is. when they sound like they're reading, he's just like, look, just call Jalen and Jacoby. They'll put you on the show. Woman Crush Wednesdays. Ladies, we need your voicemails. Call 985-80-JALEN and leave us voicemails. We have one more for today.
What up? Soft move or boss move? Eating canned salmon inside a 2-person office.
That is disgusting. Like even just the way he said canned salmon just makes my stomach turn a little bit in the office. Also, you cannot put fish in the microwave at the office either. You can't do that. Jalen Rose, have you ever eaten canned salmon?
I've eaten a lot of liverwurst out of a can.
Okay.
I've eaten schmelts.
Okay.
Out of a can.
What is happening? What is schmelts?
I have not eaten salmon uncooked. Once I started to get older, I realized I want all my food cooked.
Jalen Rose not big. It's on sushi. We'll go to a sushi restaurant. You're getting teriyaki. You're getting the fish dish that's cooked. Like, you're not exactly give me the sashimi platter kind of guy. Also,
the only thing I'm eating uncooked is tuna fish, and then I'm gonna boil some eggs and put in there.
It's cooked. Jalen, what is schmelts?
Schmelts are small fish with tails.
Like sardines?
I've eaten sardines out of a can also. When you roll a can back.
You know what? Those aren't bad. Those aren't bad. Anchovies,
right?
Not bad. If you have a Caesar salad, people are always like, no anchovies. Those are gross. Have some anchovies on there. Live a little bit.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, you know, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
They always say that Father Time is undefeated, and that has never been more exemplified than in this video. We have Kristaps Porzingis, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, and Dirk Nowitzki playing a little horse. Kristaps throws it off the board and dunks it, and then Dirk.
You said Father Time was undefeated, but I also continue to add that gravity as well when you're an athlete, in particular a basketball player, is undefeated. The thing I appreciate about Dirk, especially as he's gotten older, he allows the public to make fun of him and or vice versa.
Yes.
That's always a sign of somebody that's secure. A lot of times what makes a public figure believable is the person that you are off wax is a version of who you are on wax. And that's what I get from Dirk. But the thing that really jumps out at me isn't his poor attempt. What was Rondae Hollis-Jefferson doing?
He wasn't even close either. Yeah, what's his excuse?
Like, wait a minute, he in the league? He like 6'7"? It's like his third year?
Come on.
Come on, young fella.
But Dirk barely got off the ground, couldn't even catch the ball. And I love that his post is like, I wasn't loose yet. I just need to lose. I would have warmed up. You catch me warmed up. Who knows? I'm putting that thing in backwards. You know what? I love, you open yourself up for criticism and people, you put this dunk on the internet when you're Dirk. You did the same thing, Jalen Rose. We were playing pickup. You were like, film this. I didn't just catch you. You were like, film this. I'm about to dunk. And you jumped up, and I'm not sure this was a dunk, but it wasn't not a dunk. So I salute you for having the same attitude as Dirk Nowitzki. Can you still dunk?
I'm going to get back in the gym and give you guys a better dunk attempt with two hands. I'm going to do it before I play 4 games, not after.
All right. So glad we got that going. Well, we've got some other footage from some summer basketball action. This is from the Drew League, where Chris Paul and James Harden are sharing the same backcourt, just like they will in Houston. However, in this clip, we've got Chris Paul yelling at a dancing James Harden for criticizing him earlier in the possession. Jalen Rose. Chris Paul's yelling, James Harden's dancing, and then James Harden aggressively hugs Chris Paul afterwards. Is this what we should expect from the Houston backcourt as we head into the season?
Absolutely. Mutual respect when both players play into their personality. Yelling at somebody, in theory, for those that haven't really been inside of this foxhole, means that you're demeaning them or that you're trying to slander or embarrass them for teammates or for the public. He was just basically telling him to shoot the ball. Like, basically, I gave you an opportunity. I created a play. Shoot that. Stop playing around with these boys. And so, in theory, it looks like he's yelling at him, but really he's just being aggressive with him. That's why James kept on dancing, ignored him, wasn't tripping at all. And then Hudson like, I got this, man. I got 45 in this game. It's all good.
I was Russell Westbrook away from being the MVP. Like, don't worry about this. And what I love about this particular clip is, like, they are so both firmly in their lane. Like, Chris Paul is this sort of, like, floor general, disciplinarian veteran, and James Harden is this sort of, like, aloof, hilarious, like idiot savant basketball genius who's super lovable. They're both just so firmly on their corners in this clip. I love it so much. I'm so intrigued by the Houston Rockets backcourt this season. Now we have this news. Not great news for Doc Rivers, but also not that surprising. Late on Friday, which whenever you put a press release out late on Friday, you're trying to get the media to ignore it. Not going to work, Clippers. The Clippers announced that Doc Rivers has been relieved of his general manager duties. Lawrence Frank will handle that. He's still the head coach, but he's no longer the general manager making those sort of basketball decisions. I believe this was a Jerry West move. What sort of impact will this have on the Clippers?
It's going to have a big impact, and the reason why is Doc Rivers had his fingertips on how that roster was being formed. And when pieces of it start to chip away, like DeAndre Jordan was about to leave, then they find a way to keep him. Then Blake's free agency was upon them. Though he was injured, he had an opportunity to leave, but once Chris Paul leaves, it's like, we got to pay Blake top dollar. Then all of a sudden, wait a minute, we're losing Jamal Crawford? He's still one of the best six-mans in the league. What happened there was he and Austin Rivers sort of have the same skill set. And so when you see both of those players, you're like, wait a minute. Instead of signing Austin to do what Jamal does, how about we go get a small forward that can do what neither one of those guys do? Because at the end of the game, who was their closing lineup? J.J. Redick, who they also lost to the Sixers. Chris Paul, J.J. Redick, and a lot of times Jamal Crawford. So when you look at that lineup, it's not physically imposing. It's definitely not tall. And it had trouble going against teams that trotted out versatile players, in particular ones at the small forward position. So as the roster started to deteriorate and you bring in Jerry West, it's only a matter of time that you get relieved of those duties.
Absolutely. Now, how do you think Doc Rivers feels about this? Because it certainly does feel like Chris Paul decided to leave the Clippers, not the other way around. He went to them and said, look, I'm leaving anyway. You can trade me and get something back. Maybe let's work something out. But how do you think Doc Rivers feels about this?
He has to feel some type of way because, again, you lose Chris Paul and J.J. Redick, you're starting backcourt and a sixth man of the year all in the same summer.
That's 60% of your final five.
No question about it. And so that does say something to, unfortunately, how lackluster he was able to retain those players. And then for some people, it's like, wait a minute, y'all played Blake how much? And so now he becomes the anchor of your situation. And Blake Griffin, to me, has gotten a bad rap by a lot of people. I know that he's been injured when the Clippers have needed him the most. But every time I look down at the box score, it's like 20, 10, 4. So I understand, in theory, now that we're going to have to move forward, we're moving forward with him. But that does say something about the general manager duties, and that's why Doc lost him.
Do you think Doc Rivers is on the hot seat as a head coach?
I don't think so, because it's easy to throw that out there, but then you look around and say, so who would they hire? Now, I still scratch my head and wonder, why doesn't Mark Jackson have an NBA head coaching job? Even Colin Kaepernick looking at him like, that's messed up, man.
Now we have this. Speaking of Kaepernick, he was not hired by the Dolphins to replace Ryan Tannehill, who was injured. They've looked and reached out to Jay Cutler, signing him to a $10 million deal. Last time we saw Jay Cutler, he was naked, just looking out on the ocean, just thinking about his future in media, and now they've brought him back into the NFL to start at quarterback for the Dolphins. What do you think about this move?
It shows that the most prominent position in football it definitely has tiers. And once you start to get between, I'll say, the 20th and the 32nd best teams in the league, those teams a lot of times are scrambling for quarterback play.
Yep.
And when you look at the pool of players that they were possibly considering for this job, Jay Cutler had already taken a job in television. You just acknowledged that he was basically enjoying retirement.
He was naked. He was enjoying himself.
Kobe Bryant and Derek Jeter was looking at him with his shirt off like, I don't see nothing wrong with that. And so now for him to be able to transition probably over the next day or so into leading a football team that was in the playoffs without him last year, it's unfortunate what happened to Ryan Tannehill. But, man, it says something about the talent pool that are the NFL quarterbacks.
If I'm Matt Moore, I am so salty right now. I'm like, I've been on this team for 6 or 7 seasons. I'm poised. I know the offense. And you're going to bring in this dude who was naked on vacation, who had a job at Fox. You're going to bring him in to run the team, even though I've been in this locker room for so long. I'm surprised that they did not put Matt Moore in the starting position. But this has me just thinking about one more thing. Jalen, after this, the first thing that came to mind is, could the same thing happen to Tony Romo?
I don't think so. Because Tony Romo got a better gig.
Yeah, he got the number one spot.
Yeah,
he's got the number one spot. Yeah, he's just like, Jay Cutler, he was like, yeah, maybe this media thing will work out. Tony Romo's looking at his checks like, wait, and I don't get hit? And I get paid this?
And I like when we were talking about this because it's really laughable when I hear some of the names they was considering. Did you say Tim Tebow?
Tim Tebow, who's half in media, half in minor league baseball. They're considering him as starting quarterback. Matt Moore would have just quit. He'd be like, you know what? I'm out of here. I don't care. You guys can keep all the money, tear my contract, whatever it takes. You're bringing Tim Tebow in here? No. Jalen Rose, Charles Oakley has tweeted about his 1-year ban from Madison Square Garden. He said, quote, I want to thank all my fans around the world. The case is over now. That was the hard part. The easy part is staying away from the Garden. Oak! How do you think the Knicks should have handled this situation?
Well, it initially started between two individuals, James Dolan and Charles Oakley. And the bottom line was there were strict orders that once Oak was on the premises, that everybody should be notified to the point where he's not allowed to move around in the Garden. Basically, he was being watched. And so once he got past the initial protocol, if it was up to initial security, who I think lost his job because of this, Oak would never have gotten to his seat. So once Oak got to his seat, he's just like the other civilians at a basketball game. He's allowed to say what he wants to who he wants. But the genius in what he did, he sat where whatever he yelled would be an earshot of the person that he wanted to hear him. And that was the owner, James Dolan. So for that, now all of a sudden you want to remove him from the premises. And for anybody that's ever been around Charles Oakley, you're not going to just physically remove him from the premises without any resistance. And so with that being said, the awful footage is out there. We've seen it. This situation has been resolved. Oak can see the team when they come to Cleveland. He'll be sitting next to the owner, cheering for LeBron.
You know what? I just a little concerned for Oak because what if like Dave Chappelle does a stand-up show at the Garden? You know, I think he doesn't want to go to Knicks games, but the Garden has a lot of good performances. Billy Joel comes by. Like I just feel like Oak he's being short-sighted about this. It's not just Knicks games, Oak. But I do have to ask you a simple question that you've talked about off wax a little bit, and I want to get it on wax. Is it true that Charles Oakley once slapped Charles Barkley?
That's true. They had a physical altercation. It was during the lockout year, I want to say 98, New York City. I didn't see it with my own 2 eyes. The altercation happened before myself and Paul Pierce actually arrived at the meeting. But I remember coming down the elevator.
It was a
there
meeting
was a TV
environment?
right there. I'm like, they agreed to a deal? Why did we fly all the way to New York? They agreed before we even got to the meeting. But I got love for Oak, and you know I got love for Charles Barkley. He's one of my mentors in this industry. But yes, I'm glad there was no footage, and social media did not exist then.
Let's move on. Ricky Rubio is now joining the Jazz, and he said this about his new team, quote, to get traded, it's not fun. but I was really excited to go to an organization that really believed in me. Jalen Rose, take us behind the curtain. What does it feel like to get traded?
There are a couple of things that get discussed in sports that, like we did a Holly burial, I wish a few terms would get retired. The one is bust. Flicking through the channel yesterday, and a great E60 piece on Darko Milicic. And so many people calling him a bust. You know where they were doing that interview? In his multi-million-dollar house.
In his farm, where he's got like 200 acres of apples.
Right. He's riding horses. He's selling apples.
Happy. He seems happy. Yeah.
And so what Ricky Rubio was truly saying to the audience, because a lot of times it's, he was moved. He was shipped out of town. Really, in the NBA, all they're doing is transferring your salary. It's not like you take a pay cut to go to another team. You're leaving a team that just acquired other people to play your position that they feel like may be better. Teague, Jamal Crawford. And all of a sudden you go to Utah where they lose Gordon Hayward in the backcourt. You're like, I'm about to get an opportunity to ball here. So that's really what he's saying. It's something that you can't take personal in professional sports.
One player that was famously traded last year is a gentleman by the name of DeMarcus Cousins, also known as
Boogie!
A gentleman by the name of DeMarcus Cousins, also known as
Boogie!
Boogie was traded to the Pelicans, and going into this year with the Pels, he had this to say, quote, probably the best I've felt my whole career. What do you expect from Boogie this year?
Is he a free agent at the end of this year?
He is. This is a contract year for young Mr. Cousins.
He's going to do work. And again, when you hear a lot of NBA chatter about players being moved, in particular all-star level players that could change the dynamic of your favorite team, always look at the fact that there are some players that are already etched in their current situation that won't be moved. So if in order to change your dynamic from a team that is a low-level playoff seeded team or a team that's out of the playoffs, you have to get a player that was in last year's All-Star game, unless it was Chris Paul. And so I'm looking at the guys who haven't signed long-term deals with their current teams. Paul George, Isaiah Thomas, Boogie Cousins. These are all players that we got to watch and see how their scenarios are going to evolve as the season starts.
And when you look at a player in a contract year, people always say contract year, right? Because they are playing for their next deal. They're trying extra hard. You can see Boogie getting frustrated if he's not getting the numbers that he wants or the touches that he wants. And you can see the Pelicans sort of like reading the tea leaves and saying, you know what? Boogie's not going to sign a long-term deal to stay with us, the Pelicans, so we might as well ship him out before the deadline to get something in return for this asset that we have. And remember, they got Boogie on 50 cents on the dollar. So I could certainly see Boogie being moved before the deadline this year with the Pelicans. Such a fascinating team the Pelicans have this year. Rondo and Boogie and Anthony Davis. It's going to be crazy in New Orleans. I cannot wait. Mikhail Prokhorov, you remember him? What did he say when he bought the Nets?
He was like, not only are we going to win the championship, but we're going to do it within the first 5 years of my ownership. If we don't do it, I'm going to punish myself by getting married.
Is he married? Is he married? I don't have the research in front of me, but I don't think he's married. And my memory isn't the best, but I don't remember the Nets winning the NBA Finals. So Mr. Prokhorov, you know what he's going to do now? He doesn't want to get married so bad. He's like, I'm selling the team. I'm selling the team. I'm selling the team just like because I keep my promises and I don't want to get married, so I'm going to sell the team. There are reports that he would sell the team for $2 billion. Could these Nets possibly be worth $2 billion?
I don't have to tell you, especially with your East Coast roots. That's just for the real estate in Brooklyn.
Of course. You can't even rent a 2-bedroom apartment for $2 billion in that neighborhood anymore.
No question about it. And these NBA franchises continue to exceed what the original purchase price was for these owners because the game has grown. And I know we talk a lot about football being the most popular sport, and it is, but they play once a week. Basketball teams and basketball players are clearly more recognizable. And when you look at the salaries that continue to escalate in the NBA, it only makes sense for the franchises to do the exact same thing.
And you look at the Houston Rockets, who are also on the block, and you can see their roster is fully formed. They are going to be a contending team in the playoffs. I'm not going to pick them as champions, but they're going to be a contending team. You look at the Brooklyn Nets, and you say, well, their roster is not evolved. They do have a front office. They seem to have a rebuilding direction, and they are the Brooklyn Nets. They've got a brand new arena. They've got the Brooklyn logo on their shirt. That team is just worth a lot of money. I think he is going to get this $2 billion for this team. And he's also not going to get married anytime soon. There's no way he's getting married because they're definitely not winning a championship this year. I'll tell you that right now. Jalen Rose, as we get closer and closer to the Mayweather-McGregor super spectacle, the story's been twisted into the story of Paulie Malignaggi. The sparring partner of Conor McGregor has inserted himself into the news cycle, and he's done it once again this Monday. This time he is saying that when Conor McGregor gets hit in the body, he whimpers like a girl. Jalen Rose, are you surprised?
It's one of those things, like when you become an athlete, you become so insulated to how the rest of the world is going to digest this. And for somebody that loves to stand in the ring and shadow box and hit the mitts, because I ain't trying to get hit back. For the rest of us, that's how we all sound when we get hit in the body.
You get punched in the stomach. I would scream like a baby. I wouldn't whimper like a girl. I would curl up in the fetal position, immediately call 911 on my phone, and not be able to speak when the operator picks up. That's what would happen to me. Paulie Malignaggi, you know what? I'm really excited for this fight to come, and I'm also excited for you no longer to be a part of the news cycle anymore.
Well, just think about it like this. Between now and the fight, these type of things are going to be said every day. Mm-hmm. And then after Conor loses, it's going to be the I told you so.
Yes. Yep, there's
and
that.
Then all of a sudden, guess what? The guy you just mentioned is going to be promoting his next fight.
Exactly.
That's how that's where it works.
And let's be the first ones to do this. Floyd Mayweather's going to win this fight, right? So Floyd's going to go retire. What's going to be next for McGregor? Does he go back to MMA? Does he try to fight another fighter like Lomachenko or something?
You go back to the octagon. You already made your big bucks in the squared circle. You were a part of a spectacle with Floyd Mayweather. Now you go back to your day job.
Sure. Well, I know that you're on the fence as to whether or not you are going to attend this spectacle. You know, it's hard. You don't like to move too much. You know what I mean? You don't like to be in the big crowds. But one thing I know about you is you're only semi-retired when it comes to champagning and campaigning. You are fully retired from the NBA, even though you haven't filled out the paperwork. But you're only semi-retired from champagne and campaigning. And we have the champagne and campaign lineup for the McGregor-Mayweather weekend in Vegas. And I'm now going to propose it to you to see if it will draw you out to Las Vegas. Friday night at Dre's, we've got 50 Cent, Trey Songz, and your guy, Jeezy. Also at Hakkasan, we've got Steve Aoki. Omnia is featuring Calvin Harris. And then Saturday after the fight, at Dre's, we've got Chris Brown, Hakkasan, Travis Scott. Rick Rouse is at The Light. Jamie Foxx is hosting at Jewel. And then we got Diddy at Rehab. And Conor McGregor is hosting himself at Surrender Nightclub. Is this enough to get you out to Vegas for the fight?
Possibly. But the one thing about being a veteran of Las Vegas and a longtime fight fan, there are going to be a lot of people that say they're going to the fight, but they're really just going to Vegas. Mm-hmm. So I've learned the difference between the two. If I'm actually going to go to the fight, that's going to excite me more than obviously going to shows. Now, I'd love to see Jamie Foxx. Might have to hit him up. Might have to hit up Jeezy the Snowman.
I'm definitely not going because I don't like big events and big crowds, but I know if I were to go, I would go so hard on Friday night that I would fall asleep and sleep through the fight on Saturday. I know that's what would happen to me. There's a 100% chance that's how I would play it, and I would waste all of the money that I spent on the ticket.
I might have to holler at Diddy and Rose.
You got Diddy on text?
Yes, indeed.
Tell him I said hello. Sean. Usain Bolt lost his final 100-meter race against Justin Gatlin. And it got me thinking, is Usain Bolt, he is in my opinion, but I want you to answer this, is Usain Bolt the most underappreciated athlete of our time?
I'm rolling with you on that one. And I think a part of it is the sport that he participates in. Mm-hmm. In America, we truly only get a chance to appreciate his greatness in big races that relate to Americans, and usually that happens during the Olympics.
Every 4 years, yep.
Which is every 4 years. So a lot of times we get so enamored in the things that happen more often, like the NBA or the NFL.
Yep.
Soccer is the world's most popular sport, but it's not here in the United States.
Nope.
So I am rolling with that theory.
I would say Serena would be the other person that comes to mind, but let's take a look at some of Usain's accolades. He holds the world record in the 100-meter sprint at 9.58. He set that in 2009, and no one has really even come close since. He has 8 Olympic gold medals. Probably should have more, but there's some controversy. He's the only man to win the 100, 200, and the 4x100 at an Olympics more than once. He did that twice. Think about that. He won the 100, the 200, and the 4x100 twice. Bolt has also won the 100-meter at World Championships 3 times, which is tied for the most. I honestly think that he is the most underappreciated athlete of our time, and I think that as we get some distance and perspective on his career, we will start to celebrate the work of Usain Bolt more and the big personality that he has. Like, we haven't seen we might have seen the last of Usain Bolt wearing the tracksuit and running the track, but something tells me that he'll be in our lives for some time to come. It is time. There's a lot of popular summer series. Game of Thrones come to mind, which I love. Power, which you love. But it's time for the most popular summer series that we have going, and that is LeBron James listening to hip-hop during a shirtless workout.
Money, power, respect. I know these niggas upset. They ain't see me fall yet. What's the loss? You want to see me fall?
That series continued this weekend with LeBron James posting more shirtless workouts of himself listening to hip-hop. This time it was Meek Mill that he was bumping to. And as I was watching these, it really seems like he has started to embrace his hairline. Jalen Rose, is this the season in which LeBron James finally pulls back his own dome curtain and lets the follicles fly?
We need all Jalen and Jacoby supporters, fans, and followers to help with this petition.
Okay.
Somebody please get it started. We need LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers to petition the NBA for LeBron to be the first guy to wear an NBA-issued do-rag during NBA games.
Yes, if you're allowed to wear a headband, okay? If you're allowed to wear a headband, there has to be a loophole in there somewhere where you can wear a do-rag. If LeBron James played the entire season in a do-rag, there's no chance they would win the championship. There's no one could stop them. Not the Golden State Warriors, not the Rockets, not the Celtics. Do-rag LeBron cannot be stopped. He cannot be tamed. LeBron, I know you watch this every single day, at least more than one time. Please wear the do-rag. Is it going to be two-tone with the Cavs colors? Is that what you go with?
Absolutely. Just think about it like this. I remember being a guy walking in the mall and they weren't selling black socks. And before you know it, they're everywhere. I wish I was getting a percentage of the proceeds.
There you go,
along
LeBron.
with my other Fab Five brothers.
Yeah, holler at Mav. You know, get
This
that license,
is free
get that patent.
Marketing and a patent. Just think about it like this. You see NBA players with hoodies.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen LeBron with multiple things on his head after practice.
Oh, yeah.
Almost
Sleeves.
stocking cap. It almost looks like he cut off a shirt and put it on top of his head.
He has done that multiple times just before he sees cameras.
Exactly.
LeBron.
So it's only right. It's right in. It just totally makes sense.
LeBron, wear the do-rag this year. We implore you. John Wall had something interesting to say after he signed an extension with the Wizards. He said this about Kyrie Irving requesting a trade. Quote, "It's kind of tough. If I had been to 3 straight NBA finals, I'd want to stay, but you never know what type of relationship or what type of details they have going on the backside. Nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors. He's one of those guys that wants to be the main guy." Do you think Kyrie Irving wants to be John Wall and John Wall wants to be Kyrie Irving?
That's usually how it happens in sports. Kyrie Irving has accomplished some things team-wise that John Wall hasn't been able to accomplish. He just mentioned it. Making it to the finals 3 straight years, winning a championship, playing on the biggest stage with an iconic performer in LeBron James. John Wall being the best player in Washington, D.C., and rightfully so, has become an all-NBA performer, a perennial all-star. Now, his challenge is going to be if he can help elevate and lift that franchise to some of the heights that the Cleveland Cavaliers have been able to accomplish. So he's looking like, man, Me and you could switch spots tomorrow.
Exactly. Like you want to be the man. You can be the man here in Washington because I wouldn't mind going to the finals for 3 straight years and being able to showcase my abilities on that stage. Finally, we have this. Malia Obama was at Lollapalooza in Chicago. She was backstage listening to the Killers, and she was pumped. She's dancing. She's headbanging. She's on the ground, pounding the ground to the music. Jalen Rose, after this video is posted by TMZ and circulated around the world and spoken about on Jalen and Jacoby, do you think our friends Barry and Michelle will send her a very strongly worded text?
I think so. And they'll send a private plane. Like, where are you right now?
Yeah, they'll send a private plane. Like, Chicago, okay. This is what the tail says on the plane. Get yourself to the airport.
But she's 19 years old. Mm-hmm. She was having fun. We have 0 issues with it.
No.
I'm glad that she was at the show having a good time.
If you could see some video of some of the things that I did when I was 19, I would be fired immediately. They would take me out of the studio with security right now. It is time to give the people what they want. Jalen Rose, we open up our Twitter feed, we go into our subreddit, and we listen to our voicemails to take questions from our viewers and listeners. The first one is from Twitter, and it is brilliant. Jalen, one thing you care about very much is your waves. You are constantly brushing. You wear a do-rag at night. This is something that you take a lot of pride and passion in, and something that you've earned over hard work and time. This comes from Twitter. It's from FCSUB. Hey, Jalen Rose, what can you say about LT's waves on his Hall of Fame statue? Did he use a do-rag? Jalen Rose, what do you think about these statue waves?
So, I have a lot to say about this topic.
I know you do. I'll take your time, Mr. Rose.
Gather around the campfire, boys and girls.
Okay.
I'm actually using my platform to talk about the way I'm rocking my hair and rocking waves to encourage other young people to probably follow suit.
Mm-hmm. But you've worked hard for these waves.
And for you to say that I've worn a do-rag, I can't front. I barely wear it.
Okay.
Reg got it for me 6 months ago. And I need to start doing a better job. However, when I saw LaDainian Tomlinson's Hall of Fame bust, I looked at it twice. I'm like, is that me?
But he didn't earn the waves. LaDainian Tomlinson didn't have waves in real life, and now his statue has waves.
When he played.
And now he has waves eternally in the Hall of Fame. Like it's not only. I mean, I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think he belongs in the Hall of Fame with a fictional haircut. You know what I mean?
He's now working with the Chargers, who now play in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
LT, you know I got love. We must get you on the show. How did your Hall of Fame bust end up with waves? Did somebody discuss this with you?
No, he wrote a strongly worded email to the Hall of Fame. He's like, I don't care what my face looks like. I don't care how big it is. I don't care where you put me. Just make sure that I have waves on my head, and we are good.
You were a fellow number 5 when you were in college. And now your Hall of Fame bust, you didn't have waves when you played.
He didn't earn them. He earned his way into the Hall of Fame. He did not earn the waves on his head in the Hall of Fame.
Congratulations to all of the Hall of Famers. Jerry Jones, Jason Taylor. I know I'm going to forget somebody. Terrell Davis, Morton Anderson.
Moving on. This is also from Twitter. This is from Rob Rogers. This is for Jalen. Be careful. One's got to go. Lobsters, power, or your crispy hairline.
Oh, this easy. This is easy. Did you
Power's
see
gone.
Power? Did you see Power?
No, I don't watch
the
Power.
most recent one?
I watch Game of Thrones.
Oh, man, you got to
Jalen,
start watching Power.
Stay focused on the question, sir.
This is easy. Lobster.
Lobster's gone. There's a lot of alternatives to lobster. There's no alternatives to having a crispy hairline. You know?
I love seafood. I'll just eat more crab, eat more fish.
Exactly. This comes from our subreddit, is from 41. I love this question. Who is the greatest pro athlete that isn't/wasn't athletic? Who did the most with the least? The first person that came to my mind was Larry Bird. He's the first person to tell you that he can't run, he can't jump. Like, Larry Bird just willed himself into a Hall of Fame career just with the power of his mind in Indiana free time.
Larry Legend. You know how much I love him. I got an answer that's going to actually surprise you.
Oh, really? Because we talked about it earlier.
And this guy has 5 Super Bowl rings. Tom Brady. You seen his combine video?
The picture of him at the combine gives everybody hope. It gives all shumpy dudes in high school hope. Like, if Tom Brady is the greatest of all time, and that's what he looks like with his shirt off, I can be the greatest quarterback of all time if I just do some sit-ups. Next question we have is from Twitter. Soft move or boss move, hiring a ref for your pickup hoops game like Kyrie did. Kyrie Irving, there was some video over the weekend of him berating a teammate for turning the ball over. And I noticed this as well. There was a referee at his pickup hoops game, which anyone who's played a lot of pickup hoops in their lives like we have could solve a lot of problems. Soft move or boss move?
This is the greatest boss move ever.
I think so, too. Like, if we all have our regular pickup runs with the regular dudes, we all know that one guy that makes crazy calls or that one guy who's just so loud that he doesn't respect your call. Like, it would solve a lot of problems if everyone just chipped in $5 and you had somebody in stripes there. You could yell at them instead of the other team. I like this. I like this a lot.
And I really like your minivan pin today. You're looking handsome today, sir.
Thank you. That's off topic. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail, and then we'll play it on the show, just like this.
What's up, Jalen? What's up, Jacoby? This is Corey from Louisville, Kentucky. You guys were talking about cultural names, and Jalen said that Denzel is one of his names of all time. Me and my dad were at the Basketball Hall of Fame last month on a father-son trip, and we were looking at Denny Crum's plaque, the former coach for U of L. Dude's first name is Denzel. His Christian name that his mama gave him was Denzel Crum. Also might be the whitest dude of all time. Just saying, they're out there. Peace.
Denzel Crum. Denny Crum's name is Denzel. We did a lot of research on this. We reached out to the SID at the University of Louisville. We cannot confirm. We believe it is Denzil. Denzel Crum. That changes everything I thought I knew about Denny Crum. I love this so much.
It's still cultural because what did we call him?
Denny.
Okay. Not Denzel. He wasn't owning it. He was like, I'm not running with that.
I just love the idea to think that Denzel Washington is named after Denny Crum. You know?
Not
it's
at all.
That's what I like to
but
think
I
about.
also said Shaquille's. You got to find me some non-black Shaquille's also. Or women.
Single time I see Denzel Washington, I'm going to think about Denny Crum now. This is the greatest thing that I have ever learned. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. Don't forget, ladies, call 985-80-JALEN. We need your voicemails and your tweets from Woman Crush Wednesday this week on Wednesday. And dudes, just make your girlfriend call and ask a question. We'll play it on the show on Wednesday. Don't forget to rate us 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. Leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And we'll keep giving the people what they want.
We're not done. We're not done. We're not